And that brings us to counter economics. So for one, just to explain the name, Konkin was, again, active in the 60s. So you have terms like counterculture. You had the New Left. So he was sort of tapping into some of that culture. So when he talks about counter economics, it's not like anti-economics, because in fact, I think anybody who really pays attention, especially from the Austrian school, understands that it's ignorance of economics which has led to a lot of problems. Governments trying to make decisions for the people on a collective scale. So it's more about being counter to the mainstream economic system, which is generally, let's say, most people who have a job, who, federal taxes are being taken out of it, Social Security, these sorts of things. It's tracked, it's on the record, the government's aware of it, and taxes are being removed out of your check, whether you like it or not, to go to various programs that you might like or not. And that's what Konkin called the white market, the mainstream economy. And outside of that, you have these other two markets that he called the black and the gray market. And so essentially his theory was that if we could not just talk about achieving freedom, not just talk about, libertarianism, liberty, voluntary, association and cooperation, all these things, not just talk about them in theory, but actually try to apply them and live them, then the idea would be to try to remove ourselves physically, I think emotionally, spiritually, etc., from these systems that don't align with our values. So I know you guys have talked about the Federal Reserve. So in that example, if you are wanting to end the Fed, rather than believing that they're going to audit it or end it through legislation, through government, you try to find ways to limit your involvement with that system. So that might mean trying to use alternative currencies and take your money out of that system. It could also mean things like taking your money out of the banking system and putting in local credit union or different alternatives to that. The point is that Konkin believed that if we start actively and consciously removing ourselves from the white market and exploit these black and gray markets, then we could really have this shift of people that generationally over time, he was writing this in the 70s, that we would start to see people pull away from the state system and they would be starved of their main resource. One final thing, where I'm at in Mexico, and really a large part of the world outside of the first world, the counter economy, the informal economy, it has different names, is actually the largest economy in the world. There have been various studies that have shown that the informal economy all around the world is larger than any one single nation's economy. So more people around the world are actually living outside of the state's taxes and systems. Like in Mexico, where I'm at, it's pretty common that people work for cash every day. So I highly doubt they're reporting those on any kind of forms or to be taxed. It's just their money for some exchange of whatever service they were offering, and I paid them for it, and they take that and they feed their family or they do whatever they want with it. That's the counter economy there. The idea, though, is that if we could help people see, instead of this idea that once you get a business license or you become a part of the system, that's seen as legitimacy, the idea should be then let's take ourselves out of that system. That's legitimate. Let's get away from being under their control grid, especially now as we're talking about the technocracy and everything that's coming on. It's going to be very difficult to try to thrive and live if you're under their system, where they can try to force you through immunity passports and social credit scores and things like that. They can socially engineer you to make decisions you might not have made otherwise. So it's really important, I think, in this time to take the lessons from counter economics and agorism and see how we can opt out of all these systems.